Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gann, alongside my partner, Jack Nicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. Now, had the chance, go check out our website at justsayingfootball.com and follow us on Instagram at justsayingNoGWJS for article and video updates. Jack, Week 17 continues at 4 o'clock. Let's jump right into it in the AFC West when the Denver Broncos make their way out to LA to take on the Chargers. Still no Teddy Bridgewater for the Broncos. He's injured, still part of the concussion protocol. We saw the brutal injury to him 2 weeks ago. What are your thoughts coming into this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking right now, the Chargers have to know right now at this point, just in the season with 2 weeks left, with Kansas City being the only team in the AFC playoffs right now, them sitting there at 8-7, they could really start off after having the bad loss last week. I would really like to see them kind of take strides forward. I mean, the one problem here is that the Chargers defense has not been great this year, and that's an opportunity to stop Drew Lock and have a favorable matchup for them. But after the Houston game last week, it's very hard to love the Chargers this week, which is weird.
Yeah, absolutely. I was shocked that the Chargers couldn't beat the very beatable Texans. Like, they were just not able to move the ball against them. They really struggled offensively. Their defense did not look good. Davis Mills had a pretty solid outing against them. It's for the Broncos, it's definitely their defense. This is their lifeblood. Their offense has struggled this year, especially under Drew Lock. They don't move the ball as well. So they're going to be relying on their defense. I'm looking at this game. I'm only going with the Chargers because I don't trust the Broncos offense. I think this is going to be a low scoring, 17-13, 17-10 kind of game. Not a lot of points, but when push comes to shove, when a play needs to get made, I don't think it's going to be Drew Lock that can make that play. I do think it can be Justin Herbert. We saw the Broncos win this game earlier in the season. That was because they had Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's a much better quarterback than Drew Lock is right now. So for me, looking at this, I have to lean more towards the Chargers, although that Broncos defense is great. And it wouldn't surprise me if they're able to pull off a few turnovers and get some points on the board for their offense.
Yeah, I mean, I want to believe in Denver this week because their defense is just so good, and we saw the Chargers make mistakes last week. But I will go with the Chargers. They do have a lot at stake this week. Still able to get a playoff spot, hit a wild card spot if they're able to get wins over the next 2 weeks. Even though the Denver offense has shined at some point, they have a lot of great young talent on that team. But as you mentioned, they don't move the ball well enough with Drew Lock to feel that confident about them. But it's a tough matchup. These teams are very familiar with one another. I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I just think it's that offense is so underwhelming. But moving on, we have the Houston Texans heading out to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Now, the Texans, we just talked about them with the Chargers, got a huge win last week. It was a Davis Mills show, 21 for 27, 254 and 2 touchdowns. What are your thoughts coming into this one?
I mean, you got to look at San Francisco and with Jimmy Garoppolo possibly, he's trending towards being completely out this week. So it's going to be the Trey Lance show. I think that Trey Lance couldn't have asked for a better matchup. A team like the Texans, they do have ups and downs. But as you mentioned, Davis Mills had a great week last week. The 49ers, they lost last week, to the Titans, but they are in a good spot. They are, a well-coached team. George Kittle and, Deebo Samuel are helping them run this offense. I think that's going to translate really well at home. The Texans, I think that they kind of had a fluke win to say last week against the Chargers, as we mentioned. But I think Trey Lance can get it done against the Texans this week. So I'm going to go with the Niners out the gate.
Yeah, I like it. George Kittle's been playing well. Deebo Samuel's doing it all, whether it's running or receiving the ball. Brandon Ayuk looks solid. The scheme with Shanahan, we've seen that Trey Lance can move the ball downfield and works well within the system, adds a little bit more of the running capability. So I do expect a lot more, bootlegs and passes getting him moving. And then, of course, they'll rely heavily on the run game like they always do. I'm going to lean with the 49ers as well in this one. Texans played well last year. Their defense has a bunch of no names and has been stepping up at times. And I think the first half of this game will be good, but I think ultimately the 49ers are the better team, should win this game for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. And right now, as we mentioned with the Chargers, the Niners are also in the spot right now where they got over the next 2 weeks. They're a 10-win team. Very good chance that in this new schedule that they'll be able to get it done. So they're getting a prime matchup here late in the season. Playoffs are on the line. I think Kyle Shanahan's looking to go back into the playoffs. It's this week. Yeah, definitely for me. for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and they got the Cardinals and the Rams in their division already in the playoffs. They're trying to secure their spot. But moving on, speaking of the Devils, we have the LA Rams making their way to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Tyler Huntley has been activated off the COVID reserve list, which is huge because it's still not looking like Lamar Jackson is going to be back in this one. The ankle tweak is still there. It's reports are 50-50. Some saying he's out, some saying he might be in. But game time decision always makes me feel like you got to lean towards the side of caution that the player most likely won't be in there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The Rams right now, they just need to stay healthy. They got to stay focused. The Ravens are just kind of hanging on by a thread. It really just started in the offseason for them with all these injuries and, especially with Lamar not being there. This is a game where, if he is in this could be one of the most exciting matchups, of both of these teams completely healthy. Could be one of the, better matchups you'd want to see. But right now, Los Angeles, they're going to definitely be trying to, I believe, use a lot of running game here with that. And, although Baltimore has the best run game right now, they're only allowing about 85 yards a game. It's very tough to contain this LA Rams offense and what Matthew Stafford's been able to do this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cooper Kupp is having an electric season. His worst game so far of the season right now is 5 receptions for 64 yards. That's his lowest output on a game in both receptions and yards, which is an unreal statistic. We saw him, he didn't necessarily put up a ton of numbers against the Vikings, but he still had 10 receptions for 109 yards. We just saw that the Ravens last week gave up 525 yards and 4 touchdowns to Joe Burrow. Now they're dealing with Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
They gave up over 100 yards to 2 other wide receivers in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. The Ravens passing defense, it's struggling. And, they're out. No Marlon Humphrey, no Marcus Peters. They're down their top 2 guys. And so it makes sense. So all that being said, just the way that the Rams have been able to throw the ball downfield with Cooper Kupp has been playing all year. I expect another 100-yard game for him. Expect him to find the end zone. I do expect the Rams to win. If this was a fully healthy Baltimore team, though, man, this would have been a great game to watch. This would have been one of the ones you had to circle. But, with the possibility of no Lamar Jackson, and of course, all the injuries that you've mentioned, which is not the same.
No, it's not. But I mean, the Rams right now, I think that, they deserve to be a playoff team. They're going to be dangerous. We just kind of have to wait for them to get ready. But, what we're looking for here with them is just for them to keep executing and seeing how Baltimore has been struggling a lot, as you mentioned, just Joe Burrow going all over them last week. I think that this happens the same. I think Matthew Stafford is his potential to get 300 yards through the air this week is like very probable. It's just, with this is a great matchup for them to maybe get a little creative too, right before the playoff run. So I'm going to go with LA on the road. Definitely.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. We have the Detroit Lions making their way to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Now, Goff is doubtful to play in this one with a knee injury. What are your thoughts coming into this one? The Seahawks, first losing season in the last 10 years, still have a chance to make the playoffs, albeit very, very, very slim, but still have a chance. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very tough. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks, definitely not what you wanted to expect from them this year. Obviously, the Russ injury in the middle of the year does not help. But, it's going to be on them to just kind of show out. This is a big opportunity for Seattle over the next 2 weeks for, these guys on this team to say, hey, look, we have a beatable game here. Look how we dominated in this game. And, Detroit has had the same kind of mentality. These are teams that haven't had the best seasons, but they're very mentally strong, and they have some really tough coaches. So for me, I think it's all about Seattle's duo of Lockett and Metcalf trying to get as much done as they can this week. Seattle at this time of the year, it's still a dangerous place to play. It's hard to go against them this week.
Yeah, the Lions are going to be getting DeAndre Swift back. We haven't seen him since Thanksgiving Day. That's huge. I'm actually surprised that, considering that they don't have any chance of making the playoffs, he's coming off of a shoulder injury. I'm surprised that they're playing him in this one. I think that's kind of like the Dan Campbell mindset of let's get a win. That he knows, obviously, the Seahawks have not been the best run defense. I think they're ranked 31st right now. So DeAndre Swift, Jamall Williams, these guys are going to be definitely leading the way for this Lions offense, I think, especially if it's going to be led by Tim Boyle or David Blau, and there's going to be no Jared Goff in this one. I'll lean with Seattle. They're at home. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett can always go off. And against a weak Lions defense, it's always a potential for them to get a win. But this is kind of going to be one of those uglier games, I think. And I don't know why it wouldn't surprise me if the Lions won. I genuinely feel like this is a game where the Lions could somehow notch a third win onto their belt.
Yeah.
And late in the season, that'd be huge for Detroit. They'd be so happy. So I think it's going to be Seattle. Wouldn't surprise me if it's Detroit, though.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I think it's going to be a slugfest, low scoring game. This is Russell Wilson, late in the season. He's just trying to prove to everybody around that he is still that guy. And, on the other side, Detroit, they do have, a lot of, advantage with where DeAndre Swift is, where Amon-Ra St. Brown is. Just looking at him, he's got 74 catches, 692, and 3 on the year. That's impressive. There are bright spots to this Detroit team, and I would like to. I don't want to go against Russell Wilson this week, like you said, but very 50-50 line. But I will go Seattle.
All right. I love it. Moving on to our Sunday night football match. It's my Minnesota Vikings making their way to Green Bay to take on the Packers now. A lot of injury and COVID news for the Vikings. There's going to be no Adam Thielen this one. He's having season-ending ankle surgery. He'll be done until next season, which is sad to see. We will also have no Kirk Cousins in this one as he is unvaccinated and contracted COVID and has been placed on the COVID reserve list. So we have Sean Mannion stepping in for this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not the matchup Chauncey looks forward to every year. The late night Packers game that, Aaron Rodgers here, obviously on an MVP campaign, as we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, and the Vikings right now, 7-8, their best chance is just to win as many games in the next 2 that they can. The Packers right now, they're at that point where they're looking for home field advantage in the playoffs. As well as, looking for a bye week. It's been a crazy, crazy season for, Aaron Rodgers, just looking at what he's done, keeping the ball clean. But, I think this is going to be an interesting matchup, honestly. I find it more interesting with, having a backup quarterback and seeing what these weapons of the Vikings can do. Because I do think that Dalvin Cook's going to get fed. I think Alexander Madison's going to get fed. And I think Justin Jefferson with no Jair Alexander is going to have a great game.
Yep, absolutely. I think you've got to rely on the run game. That's our bread and butter. That's kind of how our entire offensive system works. So expect a lot of Dalvin Cook, Madison. So they can open up the playbook a lot, tight end screens, that kind of things to Conklin, stuff like that. KJ Osborne's going to need to step up as a wide receiver 2 in this one. He's been doing well all season. The thing I'm worried about is last time Sean Mannion started for us was 2019. He was 12 for 20, 157, and 2 interceptions. It was not a pretty outing, and that was against the Bears. Now he's going into Lambeau in the cold. It's a divisional game. Playoffs are on the line for everyone. There's so much at stake, and this is just the exact position you don't want to be in if you're the Vikings, that you're up to your backup quarterback. It wouldn't surprise me if we're not moving the ball towards the end of the first half, that we opt for a rookie, Kellen Mond, just to sort of maybe ignite some sort of fire on our team. But I'm going with the Packers in this one. I think that the Vikings might put up a fight, possibly. I just don't know how Sean Mannion's going to play. But I think at the end of the day, there's no way that the Green Bay is going to lose to a Sean Mannion-led Vikings, albeit he has a great name, arguably the best name anyone could be named in Sean. But he's not going to – it won't be enough to get the win, I don't think, sadly. So I have to go with
yeah, I mean, if the Vikings pull this out, our Sean,
I'll be happy,
and other Sean Mannion will both have incredible nights ahead of them. The thing is can the other Sean get it done to make this Sean happy? And
no,
Aaron Rodgers is very keen on making Sean very unhappy this time of year. So I will also go with the Packers as well. Just what we saw a couple weeks ago, what we saw just last week on Christmas, with Devontae Adams, what he's doing. You can definitely tell him and Aaron Rodgers are just trying to do as much as they can this year and just go off. So I'm very excited for this matchup. I wish Kirk Cousins was in it because I think it would be such a great matchup. But again, tough time of the year, a lot of injuries. So,
yeah, would have been a lot more fun with Cousins in there. The only way we're going to win is if Dalvin Cook has another 200+ yard performance like he did last year, and But other than that, I just don't see it happening. All right. That is all the time that we have. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you guys for all tuning in. Check us out, justthankfootball.com, Just Thank Football on YouTube, and Just Saying No GWJS on Instagram for all your video article updates. Happy New Year. Enjoy the late window of game.
Enjoy them.